Hi folks, this is Emmanuel from Sematic. This is a quick video to show you how to build your very first Sematic pipeline. So I am here on the PyTorch repository looking at their examples. This is the MNIST example. MNIST is the very standard hello world of computer vision where you try to identify handwritten numbers. So I'm going to implement a Sematic pipeline that trains the model. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pip install Sematic. Okay, now I'm going to start Sematic. Okay, looks good. So let's take a look at our pipelines. Okay, no pipelines, it's empty, it's expected. Let's start a new project. So Sematic, new MNIST, PyTorch. Okay, so let's open VS Code now, code. All right, I can see the scaffold of my project here. To begin, I'm going to take this training code. So here we have the train function and the test function, and the model definition is right up here. So I'm going to simply copy this into a module in my code. I'm going to paste this, and I'm going to call this train _eval.py. Okay. So obviously I need to import a bunch of stuff. First of all, we have PyTorch. And so I think I'm going to import all of this basically. Cool. Okay. So now I'm going to start writing the pipeline. So if we go back down here to the training script that is included, what happens essentially is that first they load the training and test dataset right here. So the only difference here is that a train equal true, train equal false. So dataset 1 is going to be our training dataset, dataset 2 is going to be a test dataset. Then we get some PyTorch data loaders, and then we simply instantiate the model and the optimizer, and then we loop on epochs train and do test, and that's it. So I'm going to replicate this as a Sematic pipeline essentially. Let's get started by looking at our pipeline.py here. So right now it's obviously empty. We just have an empty pipeline. So the first step I want to do in my pipeline is I want to load the data sets. So let's write a function that loads the data set. So here I'm essentially replicating what you see in the script on the GitHub page. And so I need to import a number of things. Okay, so this looks fine. So this is the path where my data set is going to be stored locally when it's downloaded. And this is the train boolean that I pass to MNIST to decide whether it's a test or a train data set. Okay, so that's load MNIST data sets. I'm going to reuse the same function for a train and an eval. Next step is to load some data loaders. So let's write a function that does that. Okay, so I need to import a bunch of stuff here as well. Here, there you go. And the only config I need here is a batch size, which is an integer. And okay. Next step is to write the function that trains the model. So I'm going to write a train model function. Okay, so I have to define train config here. So I'm going to build a simple data class. So essentially what I need is all those parameters to pass to the train function that we copied from the repo. I'm going to create a data class. Okay, and then net is imported from my other modules. So I'm going to do from, and name of my package is MNIST PyTorch dot train _eval, import train, test, and net. And these are the things that I defined up here, in here. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to evaluate the model. So first I'm going to define the output of my evaluation step. I want to return a number of different things because I want to visualize them in Sematic. So I'm going to return the size of my test set, the average loss, accuracy, and also some Plotly figures. So I'm going to return a PR curve and a confusion matrix. Okay, and now I'm going to write my evaluation function. And essentially it's a matter of calling our test function that we got from the PyTorch repo. Okay, so now I have all my steps, so I have to build my pipeline now. So let's get started. I need to pass some sort of configuration here. So I'm gonna pass something called config, and I'm gonna call it pipeline config. And I'm gonna define this very soon. And the output should probably be our evaluation results. Okay, so that we can, this is just the output of the pipeline. So as a pipeline config, we need a batch size right here. And we need a train config to pass. So this is an integer, and we can default it to 1,000. Now let's put our steps together. So the first thing we want to do is we want to load the datasets. So we're going to load the training dataset. So we're calling load MNIST dataset with train equal true. And then I'm going to do train equal false for the test dataset. Okay. Then next step is to load our data loaders. Let's write train data loader equals get data loader. And I'm going to pass the train data set here, and batch size equals config dot batch size. Okay, and I'm going to replicate this for my test data set. And then next step is to, well, train the model. So let's do model equals train model. And so this one expects a config. So we're going to pass the config we have in the main in the pipeline config, and a train loader. And then we're going to pass our train data loader. Okay. And then last step is to evaluate the model. So we are going to get our evaluation results. And so we're going to call evaluate model. We're going to pass the model, the test data loader, and is that all we need? That is all we need. Okay, and then eventually we're going to return those evaluation results. Okay, so now we need to write the entry point to our pipeline. So basically look at the main script here. So right now it's just importing pipeline and running it. So we also need to import pipeline config so that we can configure it. Pipeline config, and also train config. And so we're going to define pipeline config equals pipeline config, and then train config equals train config. And it's all going to use the default that we set. So the default epochs here is 14. So let's do it shorter. Let's do epochs equals 1 just to get started. And then we pass pipeline config to our pipeline. Okay, so let's run. Oh, okay, it showed up. So let's take a look. It's going. Okay, so it's currently training the model. All right, so it's going to take a bit of time, although it's only one epoch. So let's wait. I can see the epochs here on the left. Okay, the model's trained. Now it's doing evaluation. Oh, failed. Oh, okay. I'm missing some metrics that I should be returning here as part of test. So essentially I'm missing the preparation of some plots. So cheating a little bit here, I am preparing some plots, and I'm just changing this a little bit to this, where it's the same core code here. I'm just also adding some plots to it. Okay, new run available. So let's click on this and it's going. Let's wait it out now. In the meantime, I can already take a look at the intermediate information here. So here is my data loader. So this batch size that I mentioned, and here's the data set loaded from PyTorch. Okay, doing evaluation now. Okay, successful. Let's take a look at results. Click here. Okay, accuracy 96 for 1 epoch. I guess that's decent. My confusion matrix is here. That makes sense. And my PR curve. Okay, that's pretty good. So I'm just gonna write a comment here. This was my first pipeline. Okay. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to come check us out on Discord and sematic.dev. Bye-bye.